More affordable housing promised to the city of Sacramento, but some say they've seen it all before. The long-lasting impacts of the pandemic on grade school students becoming more clear. California releases its standardized testing scores for the year. And a look inside the contentious House race in District 9 with national implications and rife with controversy. Let's get to the point. Thanks for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and today people living on the streets tell us they will believe it when they see it. And that's in response to the city's newest plan to add affordable housing. The capital city is expensive to live in. I'm sure a lot of us already know that. And we're in the midst of a housing crisis. And on any given night, it's believed more than 9,000 people are sleeping outdoors just within the county. So the city wants to spend $35 million to add about 800 more affordable housing units to the 2,000 units that are already being planned. And you can see on this map of the proposed sites right here. The new plan includes about 240 units in Midtown, 124 in North Sacramento, close to 300 over in Oak Park, and more than 200 units in South Sacramento. Now, each location will have a mix of living spaces for varying income levels and homeless people. So most of the projects are set to be finished by the second half of 2024. The new units will be funded with both state and federal funding. And this plan, which will be voted on tomorrow, is to help people move into permanent housing that they can afford.
Tomorrow's action continues this upward trend we began in 2019 to make affordable housing our priority. And it will reaffirm our status as California's first and only designated pro-housing city.
Now, the Sacramento Regional Coalition to End Homelessness says that despite the amount that's being spent, this is just a drop in the bucket.
We're in a crisis, and this does very little. What they vote on tomorrow, even though it's a feel-good measure, it's a small baby step towards creating affordable housing, but not anywhere close to the need.
Now, the skepticism isn't unique by any means, and for good reason. The city has already spent big money on the housing crisis. In 2021, City Council voted to set aside $100 million for 20 new shelters and designated camping spaces. According to the Sacramento Bee report, none of those sites have opened. Each project runs into the same familiar walls like lack of funding and also communications breakdowns. But in tonight's main point, Becca Habegger spoke to people who are experiencing homelessness. They say for this new proposal, they'll believe it when they see it.
Sandra Reynolds lives with her pup Lucky and two other dogs along the American River near Sacramento's Township 9 Park.
We've been here for almost 2 years.
She says she drove for Lyft, a job she lost during the pandemic.
54 years old, and I really didn't think myself would be here on the river with 3 dogs and can't get housing.
She wants permanent housing and says she has tried, but barriers have gotten in her way.
I was supposed to have my apartment like a long time ago, but somebody took my ID and identification and they put their name and their phone number, and I didn't get a phone call. So now we fixed it, and now I'm on the waiting list again. But I've been on the waiting list since year 2017, but I've had my job and everything. But now I'm literally living on the river.
It's an area she helps clean, along with homeless advocate Dan Adderholt, who runs the nonprofit American River Homeless Crew. Through his nonprofit, people experiencing homelessness clean along the American River, and Adderholt says affordable housing is out of reach for them.
Most of my crews work. They work 2 or 3 jobs, and they still can't afford rent. That's how bad rent is out here. And how the hell are you going to have first, last, and deposit being homeless into a home?
In terms of city leaders' announcement that they'll approve funding for 820 additional affordable housing units, Adderholt says he'll believe it when he sees it and that he has heard this all before.
They need to keep their word to the homeless and have these homes built.
He says in his decade of running the American River Homeless Crew, he has partnered with local churches and other advocates to help get close to 200 people off the street.
I'm getting these people off the streets myself because we cannot depend on county or city to do that. We cannot. And it's sad because our government should be helping the people on the streets instead of making it worse for them.
Let's say you were able to get into affordable housing. What would that mean for you?
My life, my life back. I could actually kind of like be normal, but not normal, but at least get back to work and get back to where I was, and at least I am not here on the river and I won't spend another winter out here. I mean, I don't mind, but it's like, yes, I do. It's a little cold, and when you have 3 dogs, and yeah, no. It's just, I don't want to live like that no more. I have a car, but I can't live 3 dogs in a car. It just doesn't happen.
She wants people to know that not everyone experiencing homelessness is the same.
We're here and we're human, and some of us people, we do care and we do clean up the river. We keep it clean. I keep my area clean anyway and everyone around me, but it's like some people ruin it for us.
She wants affordable housing that will allow her to move in with her dogs. And if you say, well, beggars can't be choosers, here's what she says to that.
No, I'd rather just be with my dogs until we can get a house. I mean, flat broke. I am flat broke, but no, there has to be an alternative, and they're not treating us like we're supposed to be treated.
Becca Hobecker joins me now, and I mean, this is a real concern, especially as we're getting closer to those winter months. But Becca, before I ask you a question, I want you to take a look at this. The city recently opened a homeless weather respite center that is open nearly 24/7. We got an inside look at the center last month. It's over on Auburn Boulevard and has about 50 beds inside. It offers a safe environment for people who are experiencing homelessness to rest and also meet with case managers, social workers, and housing coordinators. But Becca, this doesn't currently help the need right now. There's a higher demand than what's being supplied.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and Alex, those respite centers, those shelters, it's all a piece of the puzzle, right? Of trying to address our affordable housing and our homelessness crisis. However, these shelters are only that, shelters. People can stay there for a few nights at a time. What city leaders told us today is they want to see permanent housing solutions, affordable housing solutions for these people experiencing homelessness. So that shelter with 50 beds, it's not going to cut it in terms of solving this on a long-term basis.
And what about people's pets? Is that, I guess, a barrier for them to get into housing as well?
Yeah, you know, and you saw the woman that I interviewed. I mean, her dog was like a family member, right? All
and
three
for
of
most
her dogs.
people, it is a family member.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And in this case, it's not just a family member. It's especially for single, unhoused women. It's protection. You know, we heard from Bob Erlenbush earlier in the newscast with the Sacramento Regional Coalition to End Homelessness. You know, he's told me in previous interviews that women living on the streets have a higher risk of being not only assaulted but sexually assaulted. So just speaking generally, you know, having these dogs as a woman out on the street offers a lot of protection. And so these folks who have these pets, they don't want to just give them up to move into housing. And as I said in the story, you know, well, beggars can't be choosers, some might say, but these folks say, would you leave your family behind? Would you leave your support system behind? And ultimately, you know, this woman that I interviewed said there has to be an alternative that makes room for these pets, for these dogs, because just think about this, you know, you and I in our housing situations, we have autonomy, we can choose what goes in the pantry, what time we go to bed. These folks who are experiencing homelessness say part of having a permanent roof over their head is having that autonomy, which includes, for a lot of them, having those pets.
Being able to make their own choices.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Becca, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And the housing crisis is not just a Sacramento issue. Sacramento State recently conducted a poll that surveyed people living in Sacramento, Sutter, Yuba, Yolo, Placer, and El Dorado counties. They found more than half of residents see encampments and other signs of homelessness nearly every day. You can see the breakdown right here. Meanwhile, about 70% of Sacramento County respondents reported seeing those signs almost daily. The university survey also found that most people would prefer the government offer help to people who are homeless rather than clearing out encampments. They also found the majority of people living in Sacramento area would also support a tax increase to fund services. And to put all this into perspective, we know the housing crisis is not an easy fix. It's a complicated issue. It's estimated for this 6-county region, more than 60,000 units of housing for very low and low income earners need to be built this decade in order to keep up with the region demand. And so, yeah, 60,000 units. Today, the city proposed a little more than 800. All right, when we come back, a look at another one of the pandemic's unforeseen circumstances that's been felt all across schools from coast to coast. It goes without saying that the pandemic has had a number of unforeseen impacts on just about everything we do. One of the most obvious, schools. America's children were forced for the better part of 2 years to at least take some of their classes online. And now the fallout is rearing its ugly head. Standardized testing gives us the best understanding of the kinds of education setbacks the last 2 years. So math scores saw their largest decrease ever, down 8%. And then reading scores are back to what they were in 1992. Take a look. For California, the numbers are even more grim. Math scores were down 7%, with only 1 in 3 students meeting standards. Reading scores took a 4% hit, with just below half meeting standards. And some of the biggest drops in scores are among students from low-income earning families. Now, Peggy Carr, who was with the National Center of the Education Statistics, says that these results call for a nationwide education overhaul.
We are seeing for the first time historic declines that we have never seen before, particularly in mathematics. And so it is a big wake-up call for us all. It is time for us to think seriously about resetting education in this country based upon what this pandemic has uncovered.
And these standardized tests are taken by students in some of the nation's largest school districts every 2 years. All right, after the break, we are taking a look at one of California's most contentious congressional House races taking place in District 9. We'll have the details. We'll be right back. Okay, you probably already know we're just about 2 weeks away from Election Day. Voters in California have a lot to decide, but let's talk about Congress for a minute, though. So there are 413 national congressional seats on the ballot across the country. Of those seats, 213 are Republican and 222 are Democratic. Looking at all 400 plus races, election forecasters at 538.com think that 10 of them are virtual toss-ups, meaning there is no favored candidate at this point. So locally, the race in California's 9th district is being watched closely. The district includes Stockton, Antioch, Galt, Lodi, and some other parts of the Delta and San Joaquin County. It's been a reliably blue district since the 1960s, but the margin of victory for Democratic candidates has gotten smaller and smaller since 2012. District 9 is where incumbent Congressman Josh Harder is facing off against Tom Patty. The race has allegations and controversy, and Kurt Rivera explains what's at stake.
At 36 years old, Josh Harder is seeking his 3rd congressional 2-year term. The Turlock Democrat says he has moved to Tracy, but says his roots have always been in the San Joaquin Valley.
For people who don't know you, how would you describe yourself?
I'm a 5th-generation resident of this community. My great-great-grandfather started a peach farm in Manteca in 1850. Now I'm raising my 7-month-old daughter, Lillian, with my wife, Pam.
Harder faces Republican Tom Patty, a longtime county resident and current San Joaquin County supervisor. He's also the owner of a crane operating business.
First and foremost, local businessman, community activist, and most importantly, a father in the community that I grew up in a community that I've owned businesses, I've employed.
Patty says he's running in part to, quote, bring common sense back to Washington and to help unite lawmakers. Harder says he's running because, quote, there's a lot more work left to go.
We're in the midst of a drought, and California is still planning to ship Northern California water from here to Southern California. We're dealing with the cost of living. San Joaquin County has grown exponentially. People are still paying $5, $6 a gallon for gas.
And I'm not going to go to Washington on the behest of a party. I'm going to go to Washington on behest of the community that I grew up in, the community where I do business in, the community where my daughter is going to school in.
However, the race has become contentious and nasty.
But Tom Patty is just out for himself. Tom Patty took all that money for his own business.
Patty doesn't deny taking the over $30,000 in Paycheck Protection COVID cash to help keep his business running. But Harder has criticized Patty as the only county supervisor that abstained from distributing more than $33 million in COVID-related American Rescue Plan funds in August last year. Why did he abstain?
Because I'm not certain this later stage of dollars and allocation to people is as necessary as is being talked about and as the necessity for allocation.
In a confidential investigation by the San Joaquin County Human Resources Department addressing complaints against Patty and leaked to the San Francisco Chronicle, Patty was also accused of bribery, allegedly promising, quote, a board member at a local homeless organization funding in exchange for support of Patty's plan to build the regional homeless shelter, end quote. He was cleared by the county's investigation.
It's Josh Harder's paid staff that came forward with the allegation. Literally.
That's not true. But, if he says he's innocent, then he should support making this investigation public.
Again, according to the San Francisco Chronicle, the county's investigation did substantiate Patty, quote, threatened both staff members and community organization members. No allegations were violent threats, but they were related to job status and funding. Patty denies it ever happened.
So what we have going on in this investigation, first off, is hearsay. Secondly, my constitutional rights were denied. I was never even interviewed.
Political experts say the Patty Harder election has become a very closely watched race, not just here, but nationally too.
I think this is very significant, right? With the House being very, very close. When you look at the Democrats only have a slim majority in the House, only a 5-seat majority.
Political science professor Joel Blank believes it will be a close election.
Josh Harder and both Tom Patty have well-known name recognition. And so I think what it'll come down to is getting the vote out on that November day.
How do you convince voters who are on the fence to vote for you?
We've been very clear about our values. Nobody's going to agree with me on 100% of issues, but we're focused on making sure that we're making the right decision, independent of party line.
I'm working for the people where I live. I'm working for the people that I currently serve. I'm working for the people that for decades I've done work, I've employed, and I've done commerce with my community for decades.
And new tonight from San Joaquin County, officials tell ABC 10 they are investigating who leaked that HR investigation about Tom Patty to the San Francisco Chronicle. Now, in this race, there is a big difference in campaign fundraising between Patty and Harder. According to the nonprofit, nonpartisan OpenSecrets.org, Harder has over $7 million of cash on hand. Patty has just over $367,000 cash on hand. However, there could be much more donated to the candidates under different nonprofit names. All right, let's go ahead and talk about registering to vote, because if you are not registered to vote, today is the last day that you can do it online for this election cycle. Here are 3 things you need to know about registering. You must be a California resident, be able to prove you are a citizen, and you must be at least 18 on election day. And if you do not register, that does not mean it's too late to vote. Some precincts will have in-person early voting on site. You'll also be able to register on election day at your polling site. And we are working to answer some of the viewer questions that we've had about the election. And one of you guys asked us to check, how do you check on the status of your mail-in ballot? That is a great question. You can check by visiting the website on your screen, voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. You can also take a photo of that link with your phone. The website may ask you for some personal information, and you can also get up-to-date information about your ballot directly to your phone or email with ballot tracks. And if you have any other questions, we'd love to hear them from you. You can scan the QR code on your screen right now. It will take you to a survey, or you can also just go to abc10.com/politics, to check out some of the other election facts that we have up there. So we also want to know what issues you care about and what also might keep you from voting. So we'll be at the Valley High Laguna Library, at the T&Y Market, and the Mutual Assistance Network Harvest Festival. Again, you can find the time and location for all of those events that I just listed at abc10.com/politics. All right, enough politics. Let's get outside, take a look at this weather. I am loving these cooler temperatures. Here's a quick check of your Gilmore backyard. Sacramento, 71 degrees. Love it, love it, love it. Take a look at 10-day forecast. Beautiful. Fall is here, people. It's here. Here on To The Point, we know this is our community. This is our home. So every day we work to make sense of all the issues impacting us right here in Northern California, and also highlighting some of the really amazing things that happen every single day. And tomorrow night, we are taking an in-depth look at issues with women's health and also sharing some very real stories from women right here in our area. Thank you so much for spending your Monday with me. I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.